welcome to the Galen Eagle podcast. My name is Dr. David Aguilar, and as you know, if you've tuned in before, I'm a professor in charge of our computer science program. For this series of podcast sessions, I've been inviting guests to come to the show and talk about technology, education-related fields, and how they impact Belize. For the session that you're watching now, I invited a Galen University graduate, Miss Angela Wu, who obtained her bachelor's degree with us in computer science about 5 years ago. Unfortunately, due to an audio glitch in the recording process, we lost a little bit of the audio, the first 10 minutes or so of our conversation. So, what I will share with you now are the first few questions I asked her and a summary of what she said in response, and then we'll rejoin the recording when the audio began to function. So, as with most guests, I asked Miss Wu, first of all, to tell us a little bit about herself and why she chose computer science as a field of study. And her response was that she felt computer science was a good outlet for her creativity. She currently works as a digital marketer for Belizeing.com, which is a company that provides online services to support the tourism industry. And as you can imagine, this requires quite a bit of creative thinking to effectively perform. So we talked about this for a bit because I think that this really is quite a valid reason for getting into a technological discipline. Technology, in its basic form and its basic meaning, is the use of tools to accomplish tasks. And certainly, the generation of art, music, animation, and so on have been improved in recent years by the use of digital tools. While the computer science program at Galen focuses mainly on programming, students also learn a lot of related skills like how to create 3D graphics, how to animate images, and how to edit visual displays. And all of this, Angela indicated she found both rewarding and useful in the pursuit of her degree and beyond. I then asked her why she chose Galen as a school, considering that there are a few options available. And she said that she found out about Galen when her brother signed up for the computer science degree before she did. And so it was partly out of that family connection that drew her to us. This also gave us a chance to talk a little bit about the different kinds of degrees that are available in the country. After all, most institutions do offer a degree in IT or information technology, and that's an important degree. And while Galen's degree is computer science, a lot of people don't know the difference between these two things. And so it gave us a chance to chat a little bit about that. And so the way these terms are used these days, IT as a degree is more likely to focus on things like computer repair and maintenance, network administration, and so on, while a computer science degree focuses on how computers work, both from a philosophical and practical perspective, and how to use computers as a tool to solve our problems, either by writing our own programs, running simulations, or leveraging existing solutions to our particular needs. Next, I asked Miss Wu what she thought about the computer science program here at Galen once she'd taken a few classes. And she said that she found the Galen experience to be quite a positive one, where she learned many useful things. While she doesn't use some of the programming that she learned with us in particular in her daily tasks, the things like the problem solving skills, the critical thinking aspects, and some of the practical abilities that she gained have proven to be useful to her in a number of ways. And one of the things that she still does, she mentioned, is that she does is edit websites. And this is something that students will learn in a very low level early class here at Galen. One of the first classes that they take that teaches some things about computers is how to write some basic HTML code, which is the language that we use to generate websites. So even though that was a first year class, she found the information that she learned there useful all the way up into her career. And then the fourth question, which was the last one I really asked her before we resumed regular audio, was this one. I shared with him, Sabu, that in an interview that I did some years ago with a Belizean morning show, I was asked what the advantage is of learning computer science through a formal degree program. After all, you can learn programming from other sources. There are YouTube videos, there are online tutorials, and there are now AI tools designed to enhance the solitary learning experience. So why get a college degree? I asked her what her answer would be if she was asked that question. And she pointed out a few things, like the discipline involved in formal learning, having deadlines for assignments that instill in you a sense of responsibility. And there's also the verifiable level of skill that one obtains with the degree. And I kind of expanded on that a little bit from my own experience, in that employers do look for degrees as benchmarks, as symbols of achievement, evaluated by a competent body of experts. And so they kind of know what they get with a degree. Whereas if someone has just become a good programmer, they may have strengths and weaknesses. Well, they may have strengths that are visible, but weaknesses that are not. And so that can show itself in unfortunate ways when they get into a professional environment without having the background necessary to be a rounded technical sort of person. In addition, there's also the nature of the education itself. A college degree is not just about learning one thing. If you sign up for a degree in accounting or computer science or anything else, we don't just teach you that. There is a rounded education we try to provide for you with introductions to diverse areas like mathematics, literature, philosophy, history, and all these other fields of knowledge that give us so much of an edge in both the career market and life in general. So it's around here that our audio kicked back in. So please stick around and enjoy the rest of this interview.
your best bet would be to register or to sign up for an official program. So
I
yeah,
gave a similar answer to that, I think. I also talked a little bit about how an employer, for example, would not really be able to easily verify your skills if you didn't come up through a formally organized program. So that's, I think, one aspect of benefit to it as well. In addition to that, it's kind of a broad education. Like you're not just learning one thing in university, you're also learning other skills. For example, you said that during your job, you don't exactly use a lot of the programming skills, but maybe use some of the other skills you picked up along the way towards your degree. Um, and so, for example, you talked about using HTML, right? You talked about, I guess there's a sense of discipline as well
yeah,
that comes along with it. Um, so yeah, I think there's definitely some benefits to doing that, which definitely make it worth the cost in terms of the investment that the finances was at the time.
yeah.
Um, what are some other non-programming skills you think you make use of now in your current roles that you kind of gained during the course of your degree program?
Definitely critical thinking. Um, being in the tourism industry for over 5 years, we've encountered we've had to be creative in a sense and to quick think because
Hmm.
it's tourism, travelers are coming, and anything could happen anytime. So definitely critical thinking, thinking outside the box, and just to use our resources to solve problems. I think that was the main thing as like a computer science student. You have to think outside the box to solve the problem. It's not just always one script that you follow for like each scenario. Everything's can you have to be spontaneous and you have to think critically. You have to be creative, and then that I guess programming skills. That's what I still use in today's job. So yeah, definitely.
I heard a while ago that something like 25% of all the jobs in Belize are related somehow to tourism. Now that was several years ago. That's probably a higher number by now, I suppose. But it's really encouraging to see how integral computer science is to such a huge industry for Belize. Because I think Belize's economy kind of lives or dies on tourism. I guess I suppose you could,
Yes.
yeah. And so to see how important technology is to facilitating those kinds of jobs, I think is really important. Because some people ask me, well, what's the viability of getting a computer science degree in Belize? I'm like, well, like you were saying, every job, every industry is either made possible or made better by the use of computers, by the use of technology. And so it makes you really marketable. It gives you a wide range of options. And so, yeah, that's nice to hear that you've been working successfully in tourism using your computer science degree, computer science skills. That's really good. Um, Now, again, reaching out to people who are coming into the program, what would you say are some good skills for them to have starting out? Like, not necessarily that you learn it in the program, but that kind of helps you to get through the program. You know what I mean?
Mm. Like I said, I was a business major in high school, so I definitely didn't have any prior like skills or knowledge other than playing games. What I think is just perseverance. You always try, think outside the box. I think for me, I had a little bit of creativity, so I wasn't restricted to like either A, B, C, or D choices. I was able to like when we did some programming, we have to like you didn't restrict us to programming one certain type of way. You allowed us to sort of leave our imprint in the way that we code or in the way that we do certain things with our projects and assignments. So some skills that I would say that they should bring when they're in the program would be to sort of include their creativity a little bit,
Okay.
to maybe be open and um, persevere because it for me I think I enjoyed classes like the JavaScript course. And
Mm-hmm.
then one that I struggled with was the maybe the networking or an algorithm one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the
But
networks course and there's the data structures and algorithms course.
that one I
Okay.
kind of struggled with, but I
That's one of
persevered
the
and
more
I
challenging
did my
ones.
best. Yes. So I tried my best with that one. So I think just having an open mind and saying, I could do it, then you'll get by. But also seeing how you can benefit outside of programming skills as well, because you do get, like you said, that discipline.
Yeah. And I think that adaptability that you mentioned is important as well, because I kind of have to resist a lot of, people always have an opinion about what you should be teaching in a computer science degree, teach them this programming language, teach them that platform and so on. And I'm like, this is an undergraduate degree. I don't have a lot of credit hours to play with. So I kind of have to just kind of lay the foundation, teach the basics. But I do try to do what you said, give students an opportunity to exercise their own creativity. So I will teach them like C++. I still think is one of the best languages to learn programming. A lot of high schools, I think, are using other languages, Python, Java, some of them. And those are good languages to develop things, but I'm not sure if they teach you how to be a good programmer. You know what I mean? Like you have to go super low level and understand how all the structures work. And so I think coming in with those things you talked about, discipline, creativity, adaptability, lets you take that foundation, and then from there you can just kind of explode from there, kind of pick up anything you want. Um, learn new programming languages and platforms really quickly, as you've done, I think, right? So I didn't teach you to use the software you're using day to day in Blazing.com, probably, but because you've got that foundation, I think you've been able to do really good in picking it up fast. And
Yes, yes. That's one of the pluses because when you think, like sometimes we joke, like Maria, myself, along with Jared and Derek, we would joke and say, I have a degree in computer science, but I am not using it. But like technically we are because we have learned the basics and then we are
right,
able to adapt. Plus, we have some other technical skills that I would say other students from other programs may not have. So I still am using my degree in a other way, I would say.
yeah, no, and realistically, that is the goal because I can't possibly prepare every student for every possible job they could get. That doesn't make any sense, right? So it has to be, here's what computer science is about. Here's how to use technology to solve the kinds of problems you might be facing, and then with that, you kind of think outside the box and get it done. And I think that's been the way it is. I've interviewed a number of students, I've spoken to some alumni, and they all say pretty much the same thing. Many of them are using the degree directly, but even those that aren't
Mhm.
are using the skills that they picked up along with it, just like you said. So that's really good.
Yes.
Okay, so here's a question I ask all of my guests. What do you think about AI, artificial intelligence? Everybody's talking about that these days. So, what
That's
are
a
your
hot
impressions of
topic.
it? It is a hot
That's
topic.
a very hot topic in tourism because I just went to the Boom event or the Boom conference in Belize City that is hosted by the BTV. And one of the things that they mentioned was using AI for determining trends. So
Hmm.
that's a hot topic at the moment. And I think, well, we are working on a project, Lexo Belizeing is working on a project that incorporates AI technology that would help us determine trends in the tourism industry. And this would be accessed by the stakeholders for them to be able to, enhance their digital marketing strategy and plans. So AI is hot at the moment, and I don't think it's going anywhere. Everything will just start utilizing AI. And I think there's like a trend on social media where people use an AI to, let's say, write a script or plan a travel itinerary.
Hmm.
So that just brings me back to this activity that we had where we were split into two groups, where one group was the AI and one group was like the human, and we
I
had to
remember that.
convince each other. I guess the AI has had to convince the human to let the AI out, and I was a part of the AI like group. So, but we didn't end that because I think there was something that happened, but that was very interesting at the time. So now when people are like hopping on the AI bandwagon, I'm like, we knew about that. This is nothing new. So,
Yeah,
so yes.
I tell people all the time. Everybody's kind of worried about it, or like it's yes. Some of the toys are new. Some of the interfaces and some of the some of the skills, not the skills, some of the nuances are a little bit new. But the principles behind it, we've been talking about this for 10, 15 years. I mean, back when I was in college, AI was a thing. So I think that the development is speeding up a little bit, but it's nothing to worry about. I think in education, we kind of have to be careful because people are using AI to write scripts. They're also using it to write assignments. They're using it to write programs. They're using it to do. I'm not saying my students. My students would never do that, right? But we do have a potential issue where people are using it to plagiarize and cheat. And we have to explain to them, you're really rolling the dice with that because, first of all, AI lies. AI doesn't always get it right. Sometimes it gives us false information, it makes up sources, um, and so we have to be very careful in terms of controlling it properly so it does exactly what we want it to do. Now, that's interesting what you said about using AI to predict trends in tourism. That's fascinating to me. Whenever I see an application of that, that's really interesting. And so, what is that doing? Like, is that trying to find like demographics for people who would visit Belize, or are you trying to get into more detailed analysis than that? Like, how is that really being used? Or were you even familiar with the details of the project?
Well, with the project, I think we're just analyzing different data sets from tourism stakeholders that do collect data. And for that, we would be able to determine like travelers or sort of assist with developing buyer personas then. So we would be able to tell, okay, let's say for the month of April, we have this amount of people visiting Belize. They are like 50% are from this location in the US or from this location in Canada. They did these activities in Belize. They were staying in these areas. And then you could also fine tune it depending on the data sets, fine tuning to find out like, let's say, what's the degree that these people have, or
Mm,
what their income is, precise locations if we can. There's a lot of use for data, and I think it could be really, really specific once you have the data to for the artificial intelligence program to use it. But I think well, with with the BTB, I would say they have this marketing agency that utilizes AI, and they could get very, very specific with their target audience. They know where these people are coming from, the age range, what their salary is like, different things like that you could find out. And I think also you could use it to help you determine what kind of marketing strategy you want to do as well. For example, we also have our own podcast called the Belize Travelcast. And when
okay.
we were doing research, we find that, travelers who listen to podcasts as a form of like educating themselves or just finding out new travel destinations, majority of them have higher income salary and higher degrees, and they're more likely to buy. So it's information like that we could get out of using I would say. So it's definitely the future and it's very exciting.
So, for those of you listening to this podcast, you hear that? We're saying good things about you.
Yes.
So I over the not just in the course of this series, but in several other capacities before, I've interviewed a number of Galen computer science graduates. Most of them have been male, right? Most of them have been men
I
in
know
the
that.
industry. Yeah.
I know that.
But the good thing is that, and you know this, we had a pretty high percentage of girls in our classes, of females in our classes. I've been when I was in school, it was like men and maybe one or two women in a class of 50 or 60. So I think the demographics are changing, and I think that's a good thing. Of course, it's also the case that there are more women than men in higher education anyway. So maybe we're just kind of getting lucky from those odds. But this is definitely my first time interviewing a female who's working in the tech industry in Belize. So I'm curious about your thoughts about that. What is like being a working woman in the technology industry in a country like Belize? Maybe you could give us some insight into that.
Well, I think, well, for me then, I not to like indirectly answer your question, but after I think graduating, or I was still I was working part time, and then I had like one more class before I finished. We applied for EntryCon, which is usually hosted by Beltrade, and
Mm.
it was to provide a finance solution for
I think I remember
something in
that.
the area of like online payments. Um, but at the time, like I guess it was fairly new to see women in any of the STEM fields.
Right.
So one of the judges for this competition was a woman that worked at BL, and she was in charge of, like, I guess the IT department or some tech department at the company, and I was impressed. So having worked in tourism over the past 5 years, I think we've gotten more females in those areas, which is empowering.
Yeah.
There hasn't been, well, I haven't experienced any like stigma in the area of like, oh, you're a woman, you probably can't do the job of like a male in the IT or the tech area. I haven't experienced that personally. I have
Yeah.
no doubt that that would be the case in certain instances for other people, but having seen other women or other female leaders in the tech industry is sort of empowering, especially in Belize. And I think more females should get into the tech industry because why not? We can do the same thing that males can do. So, yes, so I've seen some female leaders in the tech industry, and it's very empowering in Belize.
That's really good to hear. I haven't seen it, but then again, why would I have seen it, right? So I don't want to be naive. I want to ask so I can educate myself about these things. But it's really good to hear. And I suspected it wasn't as big of an issue in Belize as it might be in some other countries, but it's really good to get some
Yeah.
confirmation of that. So that's good to know that there aren't any gender-based barriers to the kinds of jobs you can get with a degree in technology in Belize. That's really nice to know that, at least in terms of the areas that you and I are familiar with, anyway. So that's encouraging.
Yeah, so I would encourage any female if you're interested in creating things and thinking outside the box. Computer science is a path that you could consider. Like I said, being a high school student in having a business diploma, I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I signed up for the computer science program. But I'm glad I did because I got the technical skills, and I think that gave me a boost when it came to my professional career because I'm able to do the things or incorporate the things that I learned into other different aspects of the job. Like I said, I have a degree in computer science, but I'm the general manager and I do digital marketing. I'm able to incorporate some of the skills that I learned from that program into what I do today. So
Yeah.
I would encourage male or female if you are, to take the program and benefit from it.
And I really thank you for that, because yes, I want to make it clear to people that computer science is not just about writing programs all day. There's a
Yes.
bunch of things you can do with it. There's the art aspect. There is you're just finding solutions to problems, right? And yes, programming is an important skill to learn, but from there, there's a lot of different directions you can go. So I really appreciate that. All right, one last question. So I am playing with the idea of having Galen spearhead a campaign of getting really young students interested in STEM fields. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to look like yet. Maybe it's going to be visiting schools, maybe it's going to be some ads on TV or something. But I'm really interested in getting young people thinking about science and technology as a fun, profitable, and just engaging option for high school, tertiary education, and as a job. Um, from your experience working in your field and having come through a program like the one that we offer at Galen, what would be some advice you'd give to younger people who are considering an education and a career in this kind of a field? Just kind of a general, what you'd say to kind of encourage them and how you'd get them interested in this kind of a thing.
Well, I mean, tech is the future. So if you
Hmm.
want, let's say, the end goal is to make money, you could make money in tech. And I think that's one of the driving forces when I decided to do computer science. My mom was like, "Can you make money out of it?" And tech was the way to go. So definitely, if you want a career or a prosperous career when after graduating, um, you c- I think with computer science you're versatile enough to jump into any industry regardless if it's the actual tech industry or if you do tourism or if you do agriculture. I think that could benefit you. Don't be discouraged and think that, oh, it's a lot of like I think there's this stigma where you see in the movies where programmers are typing really fast and you just see the ones and zeros going like so
Yeah.
fast across the screen. That's not the case. So don't be intimidated by programming. While I would say that computer science students are smarter in a way, but yeah, yeah, I think anyone could do it. It's not rocket science. You can learn, you can pace yourself, learn the topic, and definitely you can apply the skills that you get in any area related to jobs. Then I would say. So if you want to make money, do something in tech, and you could, if all else fail, you could still apply those same skills into another
Into
industry.
pretty much
So
anything else.
it's
That's true.
yes, anything else.
All right. Well, this has been really fun, Angela. It's been good talking to you again after all these years. It's nice to see you doing well.
It's been a while, yes.
Yeah. And definitely, I want to keep doing some like this. So don't be surprised if I invite you back to one of these. Hopefully, you'll be willing to come and chat with me again at some point in the future.
Maybe next time we could have like the other alumni that were in my
Yeah,
same
maybe we
year.
should do. Maybe we could do a group chat next time. I got your email about that. It was a good idea, and I've been doing it kind of one on one because, as you can see, we filled a good 40 minutes just chatting between you and I. But yeah, doing a kind of a group catch up would be an interesting idea for the future for sure.
Yeah,
But
that would be interesting.
yeah, so I'll see if Maria, Jared, maybe JP, and some of the others would be. You might have
Don't
to help me
forget.
run it.
Sure, no problem. I have their numbers. Don't forget Derek. He
Derek,
is actually using his degree in Taiwan doing programming.
right? He's
So
still
maybe
living in
he would
Taiwan,
be
right?
a better,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, so he is actually using his degree with his
Yeah,
job.
but if we invite him, it'd have to be one of those 4 a.m. calls because he'd have to be awake, right?
Yep.
Well, we'll have to
That
see how that
that's the
goes.
only limitation.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much again for joining me, and for the audience. Just want to say thanks for listening in all the way to the end. Please join us again next week for another education entertaining episode of the Galen Eagle podcast. And I'll see you next week.